Sorry.
Well, I was going to why you down there? You don't want to. You know, seven. Yeah, but I think.
Oh, okay. Oh, there was too much. Yes.
Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all here for this beautiful evening. This is the Celebration of Residential Owners Association Board meeting. Today is October 4th, and it is about 2 minutes after 6 o'clock. So can I verify that the meeting was properly noticed?
It was properly noted.
And we do have a quorum.
You do.
Okay. You will notice that there are less of us. Oh, what? You can't hear? Oh,
Not at all.
you're kidding.
You're on, but the volume's low, real volume.
Oh, hello.
Okay.
I can project.
There you go.
While he fixes it. Hopefully he won't fix it while I'm talking this loud. You may notice a change in the composition of the board here. We're down to 5 now. We had a couple of resignations, unfortunately. Mr. Grindle there is the new treasurer as of a couple of weeks ago, and I, Cindy Swisher, am the new president as of last week or so. So that's why unnecessary but appreciated. So that's the difference. That's why there's only 5 of us. So a quorum is still 4, and we will need 3 to pass anything on the agenda that requires a vote. So that being said, shall we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which under God, indivisible, with liberty. And we'll call the meeting to order at 4 minutes after 6. There's one person in the audience that would like to speak, and that's Mr. Hudspeth. Come on up, Gary.
Gary Hudspeth, 1471 Resolute. I just wanted to put an idea in your head. I noticed we're buying new equipment for the gym in Spring Lake, and that's open to all the residents. I would like to ask if you would consider asking someone in Celebration, maybe a committee, maybe the recreation committee, about what equipment would be more useful. Rather than just replace what is there, ask what residents would like to see in a gym. And maybe the recreation committee could reach out and talk to some people. Just give it.
Can I ask why? You must have a reason for bringing that up.
I told him.
Oh. Hey.
Well, it occurred to me that the original gym was outfitted indiscriminately, and maybe people would say they would like to see some equipment, and some equipment is not being used. So I don't know. It just might be nice to have an input before you buy a bunch of equipment, and maybe you could find something less expensive by considering different equipment. That's all.
All right, great. Thank you, Gary. And you, sir. Does anybody else feel that they want to say something, even though you may not have checked the box? You're more than welcome to. All righty then. We will move on. Somebody on the call? No, you're good. Okay. Okay. Adopt the agenda.
Somebody said they can't hear us on the meeting.
Can they hear now? Maybe.
Online.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda, but with 3 modifications. I guess I should make the modifications. One is I'd like to add an agenda item. This is hurricane related. That has to do with a proposal to do tree removal at Oak Pond. A second agenda item is postponing action on item number 6B7, which is Celebration Theater Engineering Study. That's just relocating it until after we discuss item 7C, which is board priorities moving forward. And then the third modification to the agenda was with item 7C, board priorities moving forward, that might include action items on which we vote tonight. Those would be the three modifications. So I move to adopt the agenda with three modifications.
I'll go along with that, but I also have some modifications.
Okay.
I would like to add the fact that we are going to appoint 2 new members to the Covenants Committee. We currently have 2 vacancies that would need to be under the action required portion of the agenda. And then we also need to discuss if we want to continue to have 2 board meetings every month. We did that at the transition period because there was so much going on. And we're thinking now that things have settled down enough where we can go back to 1 meeting. So I'd like to discuss that. And then also, this is another action item that we should vote on, would be the standard of conduct. Many of you who have been around for a while know that we routinely had the board sign a code of conduct at the time at the orientation meeting. That was discontinued a couple years ago. I'd like to bring that back. So we are going to be signing that tonight. And then at the next orientation meeting in March, we will continue to do that once again. So
I would accept those modifications to my motion.
Great.
If yours was a second.
What was a 1.5? Okay. We have a motion to add 6 things to the agenda, 6 items to the agenda. They just got it. And that's David's motion, and I will second it if that's okay with everybody. Okay, moving on.
We need to vote on it.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
A budget.
No, there's only 5 of us, yeah. Thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Next, we have the approval of minutes for the CROA board meeting on August 10th and the one on August 30th. We have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll move.
Okay. Second?
Second.
And thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The agenda is the financials. Who's going to be giving the financial report? Would that be you, Bill?
Planning on it.
Okay.
I think that's a no.
Is there anybody that was planning on it?
I thought that's for finances tonight were for the board. I mean, it was the budget.
Have anything to say about the August financials?
In the August financials, there's nothing out of the ordinary other than you see an increased billing in water because of an overbill in Spring Lake, and we had a pipe break at Spring Park, which caused a sinkhole. So we are getting refunded approximately $43,000 for the Spring Lake overbill, but we will be on the hook for the large water leak at Spring Park. That was the one or two kind of odd things there.
Okay. Well, then if there's nothing else, then we'll move on. The next category is 6. Those are action items that are on the consent agenda. The board has looked at all these in advance, and we would like to approve them in one fell swoop. So do I have a motion from someone to accept the?
Before we adopt that, is it in order to have the consent agenda just for items 1 through 7 so that we can discuss item 8?
No.
Is that in order? If that would be in order, I'd like to separate item 8.
Okay. So that'll move into an action required category? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Or you just want to
no,
approve?
it's an action item,
Gotcha.
but we can vote on all 7.
Okay, 1 through 7, and then we'll talk about 8.
So I would make the motion that we have the consent agenda with items 1 through 7, and then we vote on those as a whole.
Okay,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Great. Okay, so in that group, we have the Rolo president left. David, would you like to?
Sure. So when we had a board meeting, emergency board meeting on August 30th, a part of that discussion that we didn't formally adopt is on the table tonight to adopt or modify. And that was what I read at that meeting. And so it's as it was read at that time. The president at the time, Jackson Mummy, said he saw nothing that he would object to. I also remember saying clearly that this would apply to a future president. So, Madam President, that would apply to you.
Yes, sir.
I would make a friendly modification to the wording on the third item. The intent of that wording was to minimize meetings with management to 1 meeting a week, not to mandate 1 meeting a week. So what the friendly amendment I would make to this draft is the president has no more than once a week status meeting, or has no more than. So it's not having a daily meeting with management. That would be the intent. So between you and management on a routine basis. And some of these others, I think you've already talked about, item 1 and 2 could be a other action.
Yep.
But the intent was just to help the board president focus and make sure that we're a board of 5 equal votes, or in the future it would be 7 equal votes. So that's all it was.
Okay. All righty. They have a motion to approve as presented by David.
I'll make the motion.
And do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Well, pardon me, do we need any further discussion on this? Just,
Well, after the second, yeah.
after the second, because yours,
I don't.
Anybody?
No.
Okay.
thank
Now
you.
all in, thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, anybody? No. Okay, great. All right. Now we move on to the action required. First up is the approval of the 2023 proposed budget mailing.
So this is in your packets as a draft. The finance committee looked at it and made some comments, and I made adjustments based on the but we just need your approval for mailing this out to residents as soon as possible.
Right, and just a couple other things we added per the covenants, years 2 and 3 of the proposed budget, with whatever future adjustments could be identified at the moment. And, a guesstimate, but a reasonable guesstimate, I think reflective of earlier discussions that the finance committee had on what inflation might be in 2024 and 2025. So those are incorporated in there. And going back again to the covenants committee, this came out of that so that there'd be a rolling budget. There'd be 2 things that were happening with the budget. One was the budget was not started when the new board came on in March. The budget was already completed before the new board came on, so that this is the budget for the new year. So they don't come on being brand new, having to do a budget. And that's one thing, it smooths things out. And the other is to have a very firm 1-year budget with an estimated second and third year.
I think I'd also like to say that some of the residents may have heard rumors that it was going to be 20%, 16%, or 14.1%. We'll be happy to know it's nowhere near that. So should we let them be surprised when they get their mailing, or do you want to share? Or what was the latest calculation?
Right?
9.28, isn't it?
Yeah. Is it 9.28? Okay.
9.28%.
Yep, 9.28%. So the amount will be $1,166.91. So that's
$99
$99.
more.
Exactly. $1 a month, so, or not even $10 a month, so. I know $10 is $10, but it's a lot better than 20.
I know.
So, but I mean, we'll be getting
Just have a comment on that.
Mhm.
There's a big asterisk on that, which is the insurance. We haven't nailed that down yet, so it's still hoping, we have a pretty high estimate, so hopefully it will go down a little bit, but we won't know that until we.
And I could have an asterisk to the asterisk.
Yes.
Yes.
But it may.
And
also-
everything Jim just said was accurate as of a week ago.
I'll say that.
Everything he said was accurate as of a week ago, but now we're concerned that we're gonna get a significantly higher,
Ian for that, right?
we're getting a higher insurance payment. And there's been some suggestions made, and I think Brian gave some very good suggestions that we're gonna have to explore to see if there's a way to control those costs. We have till December to do it, and I think that would be the way to go, to see if there's a way to control it without it showing up directly in this budget. It'll be obviously in some budget somewhere, but not necessarily in this manner.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve this budget mailing as shown?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next, motion to approve the voter registration resolution.
So this is as a result of quite a few meetings ago, the request to do voter registration on CROA properties. As such, Tom drafted a resolution for the board. The board emailed and kind of came to a consensus that you would allow voter registration on CROA properties that can be rented normally and at the 851 building, but only after hours on the 851 building.
We were gonna approve the 851 building?
After
Yeah.
hours, yeah. So that's what the resolution will reflect, if that's what you decide to approve today.
Do I hear it?
I would like to
Okay.
make a motion to.
I'll second it.
Resolution.
Discussion? So, one question I had, and yeah, I'm absolutely okay with the 851 building, but will we be waiving the rental fees on our amenities?
That's up to the board to decide.
So that should become part of this then. So, hide that and have that added, one way or the other, just so it's clear.
So I'm not understanding what we are using town hall for after hours.
Allowing them to do voter registration events after hours at town hall.
Oh, but that's it, nothing else. Just voting registration.
That's all this is.
Yeah,
This is all this speaks to.
if town hall is closed,
We have partner programs through in
Oh,
here
oh,
after
that's what I meant.
business
Okay.
hours.
all right, I got it.
And not like after 10 o'clock.
Right. that's in the middle of the night?
Midnight voter.
No,
You're gonna get the.
Jim already.
We haven't had a chance otherwise.
You might do that.
Wait a minute, somebody just said something that gave me pause. So is it only the facilities or is it some of the common areas? Because this
All the common areas that are rentable. Heritage.
So facilities,
Yeah.
not necessarily Downey Park
No.
or any of those. So it's structured. I think I would ask to make that clear because I was thinking that I would pull up any property.
Like an open field.
Exactly. For a rally or, something. Okay.
No, there's no political activity, it's just registration.
Right.
Mhm. Oh, this says something about
They can,
People
they do
speaking.
political activities as well.
Yeah.
This came about from voter registration. But you cannot do voter registration without also allowing political activity, and actually pursuant to statute, you are required to allow them to schedule political speakers to do.
Right, but I meant not at the same time, not
Not
as
at the
part
same
of.
time.
Right, oh, no, I
There
understand.
is that resolution. I don't remember us ever talking about this.
Florida statute. I'm sorry, would you repeat what you?
They're allowed, so voter registration, this came about because of a voter registration conversation. So this addresses voter registration, but it also addresses if the Democrats of Celebration wanted to have some candidate come in and do a speech, then they would be allowed to rent, say, a room here at Town Hall after business hours and hold an event here.
Do you want to decide now about a fee or split fee or
I would
no
suggest that
fee?
management do it because they know what the fees are, what the costs are, let them.
But we have to decide if we're going to charge or not.
For candidates or for voter registration?
What you do for one, you have to do for the other.
I think those are different issues in my view.
We do have to do the same thing for both. I still think we should waive it. Do we actually have a price card for the locations currently?
There are we do
Room rentals, yeah.
For
room rental
locations.
cost, and then residents get a discounted rate.
That bears question, who, if it was a voter registration sign up, then who's going to get stuck paying if we charge, And, okay.
You have to.
Well, I mean, truthfully, since it's a nonpartisan thing, voter registration by law. There's a charge connected with that. I'm wondering about old 704 here, the Florida statute, if that's going to get in the way. I would check with your lawyer on that.
I'll verify.
I mean, I have-
voter registration.
But, like I said, what you do for one, you have to do to the other.
Well, can we approve it subject to a fee at a later date?
Yes, I agree with Bill. But the difference with the candidate, I know we have to do it the same, but the fee really is for like setup of a room. For voter registration, there's really not setup. For a candidate, set up a room like this, it'd be something like this.
Correct.
It's outside.
So maybe that's how we
Right.
distinguish it. Is that what you're saying, David? Maybe we have a setup fee
Maybe there's a setup fee that's not,
if we don't have to set something up.
that's,
Let me talk to Tom.
Yeah, can I
work that
suggest,
out.
Yeah, I
Well-
like that idea.
can I
that's
suggest that
my
we
point.
table this until we do talk to
Because
Tom?
I think you kind of need to do a generic approval because we also have some applications for some
Okay.
voter registration on
Okay.
site.
All right. Oh, yeah, that is just around the corner, isn't it? Okay. Okay, so do I hear a motion to approve this pending
I'll get an answer from Tom by the end of the week.
by the end of the week? We have a motion for that? That's Bill, and second, and any other discussion? Are the other three going to be filled in? Number three on this, there's just lines.
Oh, yeah, that's gonna be, I had to leave that blank until you guys,
Gotcha. Okay.
otherwise, yeah.
And, well, of course, this is just me, as long as you're talking to Tom. The first two sentences of number two, number three, to me, is the same thing, only different. Maybe it's that way for a reason, but to me, it was repetitive. And then we're going to ask him to specify
Permission.
facilities, that actual
He's building
building.
the facility.
Okay.
Yeah, I think two's permission generally and three's scope.
Has this ever taken place before?
We've allowed voter registration.
Yeah,
in food truck
HOA.
rentals.
Allowing political.
I don't know. Any old folks here remember ever doing that here?
It never happened before.
No?
So I thought it was just gonna be voters registration. I didn't know all this other stuff was attached to it.
I think as long as you
Tom-
can go without the other, it's
During the
required.
same- during the same
Yeah.
statute.
Statute requires you.
I can forward you Tom's email about it.
I believe you.
But we need to vote.
Yes, we do. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Alrighty. Number 3, motion to approve Celebration Community Services reimbursement of CROA for July 4th expenditures in the amount of $30,000.
Discussed at a CCS board meeting, and the amount was determined on, so we just need CROA to ratify that.
We're going to take the money?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead and make a motion.
I move to take the money.
Take the money from CCS.
Check the minutes to see it's
Celia, is that a second
recorded.
from you?
Yes.
Okay, any more discussion? In favor? Anybody opposed? Okay. With the resignation of our former treasurer, we need a new liaison to the Recreation Committee.
Would like to submit a request for that.
I'll make the motion that Celia be the new liaison.
A second?
I'll second it.
Don't you feel overworked?
No.
You sure?
It's 29-minute meetings. They're great.
Okay. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay.
Don't look.
Don't look down.
Okay, number 5. To approve Founder's Day food as recommended by the Special Events Committee.
I'm gonna let Liz talk to that one.
So in your
Make a
packet,
motion so we can discuss.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have a motion to accept their recommendation?
I'll
for
make the
food?
motion.
The recommendation.
Mhm.
I'll make the motion to accept the recommendation by the Special Events Committee.
Second?
Okay.
Okay. Now let's hear from
Now your
Liz.
speech.
Can you look at Mike?
yes, of course. Everyone, in Liz Barville. So in your packet, we have 3 different food options for our Founder's Day event. In the past Founder's Day events, food has been involved. Last year was the 25th anniversary, and Jersey Mike's subs were ordered. 3,000 subs were ordered last year. So for this year, we looked at 3 different options. We looked at Chick-fil-A, we looked at Panera, and we looked at food trucks. And the most cost-efficient and food preparedness friendly option is Chick-fil-A. And then we also have a Panera option. The difference between the two is Panera is more expensive, and the Panera will just be dropped off. The Chick-fil-A option is the food will be dropped off in portions, so it will be food safety quality controlled. So somebody that comes to the event at 8 p.m. isn't getting a sandwich from 4 p.m. And then the third option is food trucks, and the residents could get a $5 voucher to use at that food truck, or a $12 voucher that would be a whole meal for that resident. So there's a price difference with those voucher options for the food trucks. The other, where the food truck is, it may be waiting in lines. So those are the 3 options.
So we need to move first. We need to make a motion first.
We have
We
that.
have it.
Yeah.
Oh, the last thing with the 2 catering options, in order to know how much to order, the residents would pay $5 per meal. So that would help us with the number and also subsidize the cost.
How many of those 3,000 subs did you have left over last year?
There were a lot left over. Yeah.
Because nobody realized that they were on the basketball courts. On the basketball courts, and everybody was at Lakeside doing the silent DJ, so nobody knew to go over to the basketball courts and get the.
So this is a little bit different because it's at the complex. This will be the only option. The residents, of course, are able to pack their own food and bring it. But usually food is involved. It's an evening event during dinner time.
I have questions. The question, again, comes back to the volume. Because if we had 1,000 servings and we had 1,000 people, works out fine. But if we pay for 1,000 servings, we have 800 people, we're not, we've overpaid for what we're gonna get. And the $12 vouchers you only go to the people that actually pick up the voucher. And if there's extra money left, it's in our pocket, not in Chick-fil-A's pocket with, and they also get the 200 sandwiches. So if it doesn't actually work that way, then let me know.
So
Do you have to guarantee the food trucks a certain amount of money?
no,
So with the Chick-fil-A.
the residents would give the food trucks a voucher, and then the food trucks would charge us for the amount of vouchers that were turned in.
So how do we know
So
if
basically it costs.
Right.
Okay.
So can you repeat that?
So with the Chick-fil-A option, that's why they'd be charging, I think it's $5.
$5 so that we
So
know
you
how much.
know.
we're ordering.
Registered.
Correct,
If only 500 pre-registered, you're not ordering 1,000.
correct.
Okay.
So
You're
let's
ordering a
look at
little bit of
the-
overage from the
So-
pre-registration.
So because they're bringing in phases, is that open to same day adjustments at all? Like if we sell 500 and we have 800 people?
Probably not, because they'd have to order it ahead of time in the inventory.
Yeah.
So,
I think we also stated at our special event meeting, Debbie, that you were gonna put the while supplies last.
correct,
Like, people just can't show up, 30 people just can't show up that day and say, oh, by the way, I want Chick-fil-A too.
Yeah, somebody owes me a bag of chips from the last event.
Be careful, you'll be barbecuing hot dogs.
So the question I was going to ask is, with Chick-fil-A, will they be handing out the food, the employees?
Their staff.
Their staff will be doing that. So we'll have staff there, but no one will have to be involved in doing that, correct?
Our staff will be doing something else.
Yeah, okay, great.
so also, we discussed, at our special events committee meeting, to order some additional in case people come, they didn't see the promotions, they didn't see the advertising, they could pay us on spot. So ordering a backup supply amount as well.
And this is clearly the recommendation of the Special Events Committee, that particular option.
Option Chick-fil-A, option number 1 is their recommendation.
Yes,
Okay.
that's
It's
it.
also less than Panera and will be food safe quality control.
Understand. That's helpful.
Can I make a suggestion? Lemonade, instead of sweet tea, maybe unsweet tea with equal packets or sugar packets or something like that, and then also water as an option.
I think we were gonna have, were we gonna have bottles of water?
I'm not sure if Chick-fil-A has unsweet tea bottles, but I'm sure if they do, they can substitute that.
Oh,
As
because,
well as
They do.
we'll have a bottle of water as well.
They have unsweet and sweet.
oh, there you go.
Good. Good idea.
Yes, ma'am?
But then sugar available for anybody who wants to
Yeah.
sweeten it up for themselves. Okay. Can we have tables?
Yeah.
I was anticipating that there were going to be tables for sale. I don't believe that that's part of your plan. Could that be taken under consideration the next time you folks meet?
Yes, so we discussed selling tables at this event. It was not decided to do so because it's Founder's Day, it's a tradition, and we want to keep it cost-friendly for the residents. But we have a special events committee meeting on this coming Tuesday, so we can rediscuss that option.
Can I pay for a table if you guys decided you don't want to do it? Can I just pay for a table?
Be
Set
fair
up,
for
set up.
everyone, so.
She's asking as a resident, just to be clear.
Yeah, and no quid pro quo. Okay, anybody else have anything to say about for the process or anything like that? Yeah? Okay.
And this
Thank
is,
you.
this is gonna take a lot off the team. The staff. It won't be barbecuing, cooking, or anything. This is just a good way to go.
And thanks to the committee for their work and you for your work on this.
Absolutely.
Makes a lot.
It's gonna be an awesome event. You're all invited.
Only if they have ID.
Yeah, true. Okay. All in favor?
Did we already move on it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you were the second. I think.
It's
no
no
issue.
longer.
Oh, it was me. Okay, whatever.
Okay. Next is motion to approve the use of Front Street and Lakeside Park by the farmers market for the month of December. Have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second it.
What's this about?
So this was brought to our attention by the farmer's market. Normally, they use Market Street,
Right.
but that's going to be occupied by the tree and the
Now snowing.
now snowing and the ice skating rink. So they requested that they use Lakeside in December. Nikki said that her team could accommodate that
We,
with the
they do every year.
need year.
It's nothing new.
Technically.
But doesn't it
close
start before December? That's it?
The leaf falling.
No, this is during now the snowing. This is when.
Right,
but
this will start before December?
What?
Now, snowing.
Yeah,
The weekend
the
of
weekend of
Thanksgiving.
November, the weekend of Thanksgiving.
Okay, so this is for the month of December.
Mhm.
Well, probably gonna be the first Sunday, isn't it? Will it be the
I
first?
don't think you have farmer's market on the Sunday after Thanksgiving,
Can the motion be adjusted to whenever
whenever
The
it starts.
schedule.
Yeah.
scheduled?
Okay, so we have a motion to approve these to Front Street and Lakeside Park by the farmer's market for the month of December, knowing that we may have to adjust it forward a little bit. Yeah.
A question
Mhm.
is, Front Street is not under our purview, correct?
Correct.
So
It's Alexa.
farmer's market is there, so that's, we're just relocating it to Lakeside Park, but we still have to have permission to use Front Street.
They use Front Street now every
I know.
Sunday.
I
Yeah.
know, it's just,
So it'll bleed
it's
into,
relocating from Market Street,
it'll bleed into Lakeside.
from Market over to Lakeside.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Number 7 is the one that we're gonna
Just defer,
defer.
we'll come back to it.
We're gonna come back to that one. Number 8 is landscaping. If there's no description, I'm gonna ask for a description before we decide we're gonna vote to approve it.
What the motion is.
It's like a discussion.
Yeah, so, well, it is and it is not a discussion. We're gonna need an action. So we have complaints from every single service area that is serviced by Benchmark, who took over New Leaf. We also have consistent issues and complaints from the staff that deal with the landscapers on the
Your
CROA, my staff, on the CROA side with Benchmark and their responsivity and getting things done and maintaining things to the level that they need to be maintained. CROA currently does not have a contract with Benchmark, and to be honest, I don't think any of the service area contracts are transferable either, because that's kind of a standard thing that Tom writes into your contract. So we're paying Benchmark for services right now just because we need to have services completed. So the board needs to decide to either authorize the notice of termination of Benchmark or authorize the transfer of the contract to Benchmark.
What is your suggestion?
My suggestion is to terminate Benchmark.
Okay.
Then who cuts the grass?
We will have to
We'll
find.
have
We get mowers, Bill.
I mean, can't we just kind of stall it for a couple of weeks and then get another
You
company?
live in North Village, you're doing the service areas in North Village.
Do I get a new mower? It'll be a ride-on? I want a ride-on. Okay.
No, can't do it right on somebody's property.
So,
Okay, so
Do we have a plan if we terminate? There's that plan back there?
Not you, sir.
So-
Brian from
we could, would it be, what is the?
So my recommendation would be just to put you guys on notice, allow us to put out an RFP to replace them, let them keep doing what they're doing. We'll stay on them as much as possible to keep things at least at a bare minimum maintenance level. And then once we find an apparent successor, then we'll notify them of the termination.
We let the service area residents know
We've
that
been in
this,
contact.
after tonight, that this is gonna happen moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've made so much headway in quality. This is disappointing to hear, but I'm glad you're on top of it and helping us move to resolve that. But this will also be within whatever we have in the contract, our notice. I don't know if it's a 30 or 60 or 90-day notice. But
30 days.
Yeah.
impact on their 2023 service area budget? Because if it does, you need to think about that.
Yeah, and we've had those discussions as part of their budget processing, and they're all aware.
Right,
Yes.
yeah, we
So-
talked about it.
So with that, when the letter goes out, will it also say this is subject to change?
Mhm.
For things, particularly for those service areas?
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
think they're pretty all, I think they're all on board,
Yeah.
knowing that this
Understand.
is gonna change and that
The service area committees are
Yes,
on board,
they're all
but it's a matter of
on
then getting
board.
that notice to the residents
Right.
themselves.
Want to make a motion
I'll make
to
the motion.
terminate benchmark?
To issue an RFP, and
Do
then
an
later
RFP.
we'll do a termination.
Okay. So for right now, we issue an RFP to take over the responsibilities of benchmark.
And the motion also is beginning the termination proceedings.
Yes.
Thank you.
Would you like to make that motion?
So I just want to ask a question. So we don't need to discuss anything about this termination moving forward. Whatever you decide, like we don't have to discuss it at a board meeting, right?
You'll only discuss the granting of the new contract.
Right.
RFPs
Yeah.
for the
Okay.
individual service areas.
Do you have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Okay. One is covenants. And that's all it says here, so.
Okay, so at the September 13th Covenant Committee meeting, the committee made a couple of requests of management to take recommendations to the board. There were 3 requests. One of them has already been addressed by removing the courtesy notice from the first notice template. So that's been addressed. The committee also requested that the board have management initiate full inspections beginning immediately, and that those initiate inspections immediately, and that those inspections be full CROA inspections, not the category inspections that we've been doing for the last few months.
What's the current backlog on what we've done so far?
So today in your packet, you have 116 on the non-compliance list. On your next board meeting, you'll see another 2.
Take that down.
So then the the 212 or the 220 some odd that will be on your next board meeting for non-compliance will be split up into another 2 committee meetings. So you essentially have enough violations standing out there to fill up your next 4 covenants meetings.
What time period were the inspections represented here?
These ones, the ones on here today represent the first half of July, and the ones on your next board meeting represent the second half of July and the first week of August before the moratorium.
Can,
No, go.
can we have a review of any changes that were made in the process to address some of the issues that were happening?
I can. So violations will no longer be mailed from the corporate office. They will all be printed and mailed here. The fines were being automatically posted once a 3rd letter was sent. That's been stopped. Like, as I said before, it no longer says courtesy notice on the first notice. It says violation notice, so it's less confusing. We're still working with corporate on making a couple other modifications to the letters, just so they're a little more clear. It's not changing verbiage, it's just formatting, and I think Cindy and Gary have been in communication about that. So we've been beta testing the new procedure.
And so generally, it's gonna be issued when it's approved, right? And then it's gonna be mailed same day or the next day.
It'll probably be mailed the next day.
And then we're guessing 1 or 2 days to get to the resident, correct?
So, yeah, so for a first letter, an inspector goes to somebody's house and says, okay, you need to paint your house. They then they'll upload that to CRNet. It'll go into the manager's box for approval. The manager will then approve it. From those approvals, it gets into the print queue twice a day at noon and at 5. Be approved for printing by mid-afternoon that day, depending on the backlog of the admin staff, or some of them will be used for printing and mailing the next day.
Okay.
So you're at a 2 to 3 day
Instead of.
lag instead of a
Yeah,
10+ day lag.
yeah.
So going back to what you said, that the covenant speed does not meet in December. However, the inspectors still inspect in December. They don't inspect in December? Okay. So if we do this, then how many homes are going to be inspected during October and November? Additional homes from the 116 and 220 we already have in the queue.
Yeah, 2/3 of the homes.
So 2/3 is more like 3.
2,000, exact number.
2/3.
of about 2,400.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, okay. So that's, I'm sorry again. So how many?
2/3 of the 2,400.
2/3. During October and November, or?
Yes.
Okay.
So what that translates to, just 2/3 over a 3-month period, over a 2-month period equals a quarterly inspection.
Yes.
So we are then on track for quarterly inspections again.
Except now they're in the queue and they won't be looked at until after the first of the year.
Only 1/3 would not be looked at, right?
None of them.
They won't, if you have enough outstanding violations right now to fill up the
Oh, I see.
remaining
Got it.
4 covenants committee.
So this would be in effect October, and this would be November, and then the covenants committee doesn't meet in December. So these 1,600 that they'll be doing in October and November won't be talked about until next year.
Talk about is one thing, but the moratorium on inspection is something else, right?
Well, they'll be just sitting there.
Right, but are we going to end the moratorium, the recommendation is to end the moratorium on inspections, which I think is a good idea.
So the ending of the moratorium of inspections just equates to whatever violations go out between whatever date the moratorium is ended and the last day of November won't be heard on a covenants committee hearing until January.
But they can still be inspected.
They can be inspected.
Yeah. What I'm anxious to do is to get back to the inspections. I think the moratorium should be ended immediately and inspections started back and get back on the quarterly inspection routine.
Barry, did you want to say something?
I'd like to add something positive.
Okay.
Covenants committee. You know, the object of covenants is to get compliance. So even though the non-compliant, let's say these 2 months of inspections, about 1,600 homes, even though they may not come before the covenants committee, a portion of those until next year, about 60% of the homes are compliant after the inspection and never come before the covenants committee. So the purpose is being accomplished by doing the inspections. A letter saying, oh, I better take care of this. The community is becoming compliant and they're taking care of their properties, which is the whole purpose.
But then in October, you'll be sending out letters that say you have 14 days to contact town hall.
Yeah.
But then if they don't, they're going to have to wait until after the first of the year, probably,
And,
to get heard.
and that's the big secret, because guess what? they now have more time to complete their problem.
Give away the secrets.
We want the compliance.
You want the compliance, and guess what? We just gave them
Until before the
couple
the
of
first
months.
board meeting in January to see what the non-compliance list is. And then once you vote on that non-compliance list, it'll go to
And
covenants.
then if they haven't did their repairs, then shame on them.
So
So-
eventually we'll catch up.
So two things. One is, I don't see a management recommendation on this. But second is, this board never discussed a moratorium. It was imposed and this board never discussed it. So I would like to see the moratorium ended immediately, like effective tomorrow.
I can make it effective.
No, effective tonight. So I think that's, we need a motion to approve this, but anyway, to move this forward.
I'll make the motion to end the moratorium that this board did not approve.
We
Do I
didn't,
hear-
we never discussed
Yeah.
it. It was imposed.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that. And if I may do a friendly amendment to the motion, I mean, we can have those as separate, but why not just adopt both of the recommendations that I'm assuming management is endorsing, even though the paperwork doesn't say that, or not?
I don't have an opinion either way.
Okay.
But the only thing I'm gonna say is the only downside to conducting full inspections is, remember, we're gonna go back to that problem of
Okay.
the different categories. You're gonna get one letter per category if you have
Got it.
multiple
Got
violations
it.
in multiple categories. That's something that I cannot fix in CERMED.
And I
But
withdraw my comment and just let the motion on the moratorium be a standalone.
Aware of having to a hurricane that we've just come through, I know people in town who have damage. They can't even get an adjuster here for 30 days. And then they have to find a contractor to fix things. So there's some slack that's going to have to be given within that because of the hurricane damage.
Yeah,
Well, and hopefully,
I think the covenants committee will understand that.
and the folks that get the letters will be able to, should respond and say, I realize this, but this is the result of the hurricane.
Right.
I've contacted somebody, blah, blah, blah.
And I think the inspectors can use judgment to see mold doesn't appear overnight. But other types of damage can appear overnight because of hurricane. But there's some things that we just had a committee and we saw some things that have been sitting for a couple of years. I mean, a rotten fence doesn't happen overnight.
Lauren, I'm sorry, you were saying.
So I think there can be some judgment based on the inspector.
I was just saying, it seems a bit disingenuous to start paying people right after a hurricane. And, I don't know if that small bush was really like that before the hurricane or after the hurricane. So I would say, we can end the moratorium, but make a recommendation because of the hurricane, wait a week or two for people to have time to do some cleanup.
And that's why you're the executive director. and you make
Exactly.
that decision.
Yeah, and then look at things that are more egregious. Let's don't appear moldy
Yeah,
overnight.
Yeah.
I mean, look at things that are slippery, look at things that have just been sitting for a while.
You guys decide. Well,
Make it weeks or 3 different weeks.
We're in discussion now.
Yeah.
Is there any way we could say November 1st, just so there is a specific time for people to deal with it?
yeah, but like we said, they're just not, the inspectors are
I knew
just
you were
not.
gonna say no.
The
rest of them.
inspectors aren't just gonna go out tomorrow and say, okay, who are we gonna write up? They know, and the covenants committee knows what they're looking at, and like David said, mold just doesn't grow on the sidewalk because of Ian overnight, and like we just went through the appeals with specific things, there's damages.
What's the downside of waiting till November 1st?
I think we should just move forward and let management do, once this is lifted, let management figure out when to send the inspectors out, when everything gets cleaned up, where to send them out, but at least they'll take it upon themselves when to do it.
Okay, but do you have an answer to my,
Yeah, what was your
the
question?
question was,
What's it out?
what's the downside of waiting to start up in November.
If
November
there's
1st.
no downside, let's just let them make the decision once we lift this moratorium.
Well,
When
I
they
We
do
didn't
it.
approve the moratorium.
Right.
True.
We didn't approve it. So
I
let's just,
understand
let's
that.
undo an
It was an
executive action.
It was an executive action, I understand.
Right.
Let's undo it.
But looking at it from another perspective, we've had this moratorium, whether or not we knew it was going to be imposed or not. And now that there's a hurricane, we're going to tell everybody, hey, guess what? We're starting inspections again. I mean, that's gonna,
That's it.
I think we should wait until, November 1st, because otherwise you're going to catch all kind of, so, I mean, November 1st works for me, and I think that's
It's okay.
fair
Okay.
because.
So we're lifting it and let them decide if they want to do it December 1st, they can do December 1st. It's management's decision.
Well, but we have, okay, I understand that, but we are responsible for communicating to the community.
Right.
And I think it would be good to say, we're definitely not going to start up. But we will also evaluate this at the next board committee to make sure that that's a good time to start it back up. Everyone's had a chance to deal with hurricane issues.
But even with the moratorium, egregious things were cited. Correct? So we can still tomorrow find the things that have been out there for a couple of years. Those are not hurricane related. Egregious things can still be cited.
Yeah, things like Airbnbs
Okay.
were cited.
Fair enough.
Needed to be
Full
addressed.
ones start November 1st, egregious.
Just egregious or, I mean, a rotten fence, I showed you the pictures, rotten
Yeah.
fence. I mean, that didn't happen last
I
Thursday.
get it, yeah.
What do you want to do?
I would agree that the egregious things we can continue to do, but we'll start doing full inspections November 1.
Okay,
That's good.
whoever made the
That's
motion.
why she's here.
Trying to address the finalizing of the letters. We can do a couple more beta tests of things and make sure there's no more kinks.
So what you're saying is the moratorium is lifted, however, full-blown inspections will not resume until November 1st.
Yeah, that's what,
And even put in because of the hurricane.
yeah.
And so you guys come off looking like
Stars.
you care about everybody's.
And we do.
So it's not like we're looking to,
But if you just come
We do.
off with the terms of ways, then it doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Call the question.
Would you like to make that motion?
We did, we have a
we
motion.
did.
She just changed it, didn't she?
November, we're ending the moratorium and restarting November 1st.
He's doing full inspection.
Yeah.
November 1st.
Right.
Yeah, the moratorium itself has been lifted and full inspections will begin on November 1st.
And you can add, but previous people who have been cited, please continue making those changes, fixing
Exactly.
whatever it is. So you're adding back in what Dave was saying.
Okay, so I made the motion. Would somebody like to second it?
I'll second
Actually,
it.
Celia had made the motion and
I'm
I
sorry.
seconded it.
All right,
I won't do either.
Just,
but you guys are okay with?
yes,
with those? Okay,
yes.
so all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, non-compliance list.
So we're not, I'm sorry, I'm back on that. We're not adopting that other recommendation from the covenants committee at this point.
Yes, you are. You're doing full inspections effective November 1.
1st.
Oh, it was full inspections, not by category.
Right.
Okay.
That's a
compromise.
change.
Yeah.
But it won't be implemented until November 1st.
Yeah.
That too.
I think we were both on the same page, Jim, when we were figuring it out.
All right, next up is the non-compliance list.
You have a total of 116 non-compliant items on your list today. They're broken out by village.
I have a motion to start this process, the finding process on these folks.
Motion, to start the finding process.
Second that motion.
Any discussion? In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving on, September fee waivers.
I recall from these, all of these were recommended by management.
Yeah,
I'll make the motion.
Okay, David. Second?
Second.
So what's up with that? All of them had the same thing, the
Same
same issue.
We think we figured it out on the corporate end. They thought they were set up for ACH and they were not. They didn't complete it. There was one step missing in the process, so it's been remedied.
Good. Okay.
My fees came out.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now, what do we want to do next? You want to do yours?
The Oak Pond tree removal.
Okay, let's do
and
that.
Covenants Committee.
That's one of the ones that we just added.
Those-
We have a recommendation to approve this estimate from Exquisite to rectify the trees. The Oak Pond. Background.
Have you guys seen the trees? So one of the larger trees at Oak Pond Park fell over during the hurricane. The root ball is fully visible. There's a large hole as the result of that. It's a safety and security issue. We've taped it off, but the tape's been ripped down a couple of times and kids are playing on it and in the little puddle hole. So we just need to get it removed and huge tree. And Brian's here.
I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion to
Oh, it's
approve.
5 trees, sorry.
Five trees.
The one huge,
It's you have two palm trees on the way down, right and half. And then,
Oh, my.
so they need to come out, and then separately, two of the sweet gums, the tops blew out of them, and they're not gonna recover past that.
Okay.
So I'll make the motion to approve.
In favor?
One discussion item, how quickly can this be addressed?
I know.
Okay,
But probably, if not started this week, probably Monday.
and just dealing with safety and security until it can be addressed.
Our complaint, our
Just-
operations team is out there regularly checking on it.
Maybe staking up temporary fence or something. Thank you for being on top of that.
So that takes care of,
Oh, we have to vote.
oh, yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Covenants. Covenants Committee appointment.
Oh, yes. And then mine will be last. All right. So we have, this is just added to the agenda, we have 2 openings on the Covenants Committee. And we had actually 10 people that were interested in filling those positions. We have a list, we've discussed it. Do we have, does someone want to make a recommendation for the selection of the folks?
Make a recommendation,
And we have these written by numbers, who are you recommending?
1 and 7.
Okay. Do I have a second on
I'll
that?
second that.
Okay, so Celia and Bill, any discussion?
Couple of comments. You know, it's nice to see all these individuals interested in this or other committees. It's also nice to see people who have varied numbers of years of home ownership from 1 to 24. It's also nice to see people with prior HOA experience, not in this community. It's nice to see people with HOA experience and other experience in this community and a lot of quality backgrounds. This is great. So it's one of the things that several of us found in reviewing these is the lack of information, even though we asked for information. Some people just said, I've lived here X number of years. I'd like to be on the committee. That's all we know, name, address, and years. And that's not sufficient. And so we're looking at, Cindy's asked management to look at revising the form so that we have, like, why are you interested and what can you bring to the table? So this was a hard choice, but it's based on, for a lot of the applicants, a lot of non-information provided, even though the form says, please provide information. So now we're going to be more assertive and say, you must provide information. So, but anyway, this was great to see these 10 people, and it's a hard choice.
Agreed. In favor?
Aye.
Okay. Congratulations to you two. You will be finding
Numbers 1 and 7
one
got
and
approved.
seven. Yeah.
Isn't that exciting?
Yes. Congratulations. And you will see me at the meeting.
And so those 2 will be notified and the other 8 will be said, we're going to keep your name on file.
Yeah, I'll email them all first thing in
And
the
some
morning.
are interested in other committees.
Okay.
Here or
What did I write down here? Standards of conduct I'd like to do now. and
Okay.
then-
So then meeting frequency?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so I mentioned earlier when we were talking, or when I was talking, that in the past, we used to have a code, it was called a code of conduct, back when I worked here, but now it's been revised to be called standard conduct. It was always signed by the board members. It was posted on the website so people could actually see it. And it covers things like due care and conflict of interest and objectivity and how we can't take gifts from folks and confidentiality, how we conduct ourselves. So this hasn't been done for a couple of years. I wanted to bring this back sooner rather than later. And then going forward, next organizational meeting, we will continue to do this. So I have already signed it and I'll pass it this way. You guys can sign it.
Don't we talk about it first?
You may certainly talk about it.
I'd like to talk about it.
Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion to go ahead and approve this?
I'll make the motion to go ahead and approve it.
Okay, and I'll second it. And Bill's gonna talk about it.
Well, I have a question. I mean, the last thing, item 2 is breach of conduct, and then it says it's a remedy and it's described in the bylaws and so on and so forth. But who decides it's a breach? How does that happen?
Well, part of the issue, part of the reason that this was discontinued was because there's really no way to. I think that.
Then I'll sign it.
Okay. Personally, I think it's kind of like a good reminder, how we should all act and respond and, don't defer an executive session, please don't go out and tell your neighbor, what happened and things like that. I just think it's good to keep it in the forefront. Everybody has a copy of it now, so they can refer to it if there's ever any questions, like, can I tell what? No, So, anyway, that's why we're doing this.
Are we going to post this for the residents?
We are.
Great.
Is this not? Oh, sorry. Is this law changed a couple or 3 years ago that talked about the reasons for removal and having this in force was no longer enforceable? Didn't the state law change that limited why a board member could be removed? I think that's why.
Yeah, it's
This went on hiatus.
Yeah, even if you read the chart, it's very difficult to actually remove a board member. There is verbiage in there that says that an officer can be removed if it's deemed by the rest of the board members that they're not acting in the best interest of the community.
Right, that's something different.
Yeah, but,
Okay.
but as far as getting rid of
Yeah.
board members and stuff, but, we would hope that everybody would kind of just naturally, because it's pretty much common sense business practice.
Intent.
Exactly.
Thank you, Cindy.
You're welcome.
Thank you for bringing that.
Hand this over to Lauren and she can get it posted on the website. And many people have asked about that too, so you know. And then the last one that we added was to discuss how often we're going to meet. Would somebody like to make a motion? I've been having 2 meetings a month. We may or may not want to continue that.
I'll make the motion that we have regularly scheduled board meetings once a month. And then workshops on topics of interest that would warrant additional, more in-depth discussion as needed.
Right? One second. Okay, so that's one formal board meeting a month, and then if we decide there's something going on where we need to have, a workshop of some kind or an additional meeting because all of a sudden we've got, I don't know,
Too many
contracts.
things.
Yeah, too many things going on, we'll do that. Okay. Discussion.
I'm going to vote against it because I made my opinion clear before that I still think we need 2 a month. But I will support the board's decision if that's what it is.
We're doing the second and the fourth Wednesday of the month. What I'd like to start doing is on the date that would have been the first meeting of the month, the second Wednesday. That's when we start asking the board, do you have any agenda items? And at that point, we start compiling for the meeting 2 weeks in advance, and then, try to get that wrapped up within a week. Of course, there's always going to be some last minute things, and then have our meeting on the fourth Wednesday. Does everybody think about that? Jim? And then the time for the financials to come down, right?
That may also give us an opportunity to get materials prior to a board meeting to the community even earlier, so that they can review,
Which is the goal. So it gives you,
rather than a day or two ahead.
kind of gives you a whole month to, certainly you can start on it sooner, just accumulating stuff, but and then I would also like, if one of us requests something to be on the agenda, I'd like for our names to be there, so we know, who brought it to our attention, and, we could get some feedback from that person as to why they wanted it on the agenda.
Is that for all copies of the agenda or just while it's a work in progress?
I don't think there's anything, unless somebody disagrees, I don't think there's anything wrong with putting, that this is, the covenants is, that's your agenda item. And I also think we need to be a little bit more descriptive other than just saying, covenant, or landscaping, in general, just short sentence. It really doesn't tell anybody anything.
So moving forward, if we decide this, the fourth Wednesday of the month of November is the night before Thanksgiving.
So you may just adjust that one.
Yeah, is that just that?
Did you adjust that already? No, we planned on doing, the plan was, we're scheduling it now just to have on the calendars in case, but you would do the second Wednesday in November for that one. We can't do the third Wednesday
Second or
because
third.
that's bingo.
Oh, bingo.
How about Tuesday? How about the fourth Tuesday?
Well, if
There's
there's
a long time between this meeting and that meeting.
But
Well, we're gonna have
you
to-
would have the fourth Wednesday in October,
Oh, so
or are you
so there
gonna
will be
skip
two
the?
meetings this week.
Oh, do you want to have another meeting in October?
If you want, I won't be here. I'm traveling.
Well, if you skip the.
No, second
Yeah,
meeting.
there's a lot of weeks in October. There's like a lot of
If
weeks.
you skip the fourth Wednesday in October and then doing the second Wednesday in November gives you a
Fourth
decent
week.
timeframe.
Fourth meeting, yeah, this is the September meeting, what we're in.
Right.
So we're talking about the
Right.
regularly scheduled October meeting. Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
I thought you were talking about one next week.
November 9th.
No, October, well, first there's going to be another one in
So you'll have
October.
October 26th.
25th?
26th.
26.
And then, since the 23rd is the day before Thanksgiving and the 16th is bingo, do you want to do, we could possibly do the 15th, or you can do 2 meetings 2 weeks apart.
CDD meets the 15th. Have them, why don't you just
We can't
send out a
do the-
poll?
We can't do the 30th, right, Debbie?
No. Why don't we just do that separate?
You want to figure that out separately?
Do it on the 17th. Well, bingo. Not me.
Oh, I was gonna say.
17th is covenants.
Yeah, Wednesday's really the only day slated for board meetings, pretty much, because all the other committee meetings are the other day.
Yeah.
Maybe find a different location.
For us,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, but
Tavern?
then you've got the,
I know.
we're gonna make a road trip.
well, how many? Well,
How about we do November offline?
okay. Okay, so the next scheduled meeting is October 26th.
Yeah.
And then we'll do one in November to be determined.
Right.
And then one each month after that.
Yep.
And workshops
As needed.
Yeah,
Do we need to vote on that?
I think we do.
Okay.
Write that down. Was this David and Celia?
I think it was, if I made the motion or seconded it. Whatever the minutes show.
It was David and then Celia.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None.
All righty. Okay, I think, did we cover everything
Yeah.
in this section that needed to be added?
Yes.
Okay. We have the management update.
All right, so in the interest of time, I'm gonna skip over the call stats, because, they're in the packet which is available online, and effective tomorrow, we will be bringing phone calls back to town hall.
Wait, can you say that louder? What did you just say?
Effective tomorrow, phone calls will be coming back to town hall directly.
Because Grand Manners listen to the community.
They might spill over.
Correct.
Yeah, so there'll be a triage system. It'll be something to the effect of press 1 if you have questions about community standards, question 2 if you have parks and rec questions, 3 for lifestyle, 4 for financial, and 5 for everything else. And if you don't get somebody, you will get a voicemail that has somebody's name on it, so you will know who exactly you left a voicemail for.
And we get it in our emails. We get the voicemails in our emails.
And they can expect a call back the same day?
I mean, unless it's like 5 p.m.
Within
24 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that gonna go out into the community, like an email
Yeah, we'll
blast
do
or
an email
something?
blast.
That would be great. Awesome.
That's a big win.
So I'm going to move on to focus on the impacts of Hurricane Ian. As you can see here in the room, there are third pro dehumidifiers and fans. They have been in the building since last Thursday. They are still in the back, pretty much on every exterior wall with a window. They are still actively going. We shut these off just before the meeting. Pro will be back, has been here Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, yesterday and today, doing reading moisture in the walls. They cut holes in some of the baseboards to allow airflow in there for things to dry. They will be providing me a recommendation as to how to move forward. I've discussed some of that with Bill already, and with another vendor, we'll get competitive bids based on that recommendation and further conversations with Bill, and then we'll move forward with how to address that. There were other discoveries / things that we already kind of had an idea were happening in the building with the water intrusion through the windows. So some of it will be insurance claims, some of it will not be.
Do you expect anything to be attached to this?
Possibly. I'm waiting there's a couple of reports I'm waiting to get back from them, and then that will inform.
In the audience that would like to speak.
If, Brian Kinsel, former board member, if you think about making an insurance claim, okay, if you're seriously going to consider making an insurance claim, be very careful. If it's not for quite a bit of money, it's going to cost you more in premium, and it's going to cost you a lot more in subsequent premiums. We've got capital improvement funds. We know we had a fix. I'm just, hurricane, so your deductible is going to be very sizable, but if you make a claim and then find out you're not over deductible, you will be nailed for filing a claim. And you're going to find out your rate's going to go up a lot because your renewal's in December 7th.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mr. Kinsel.
Wait, you didn't give us his address.
So once we get all the information, I'll get it to you guys and give you a recommendation. And I'll certainly talk to Bill before that. In terms of the parks, thanks to our amazing vendor Exquisite, who has left the room, almost every park that Exquisite is in charge of has been taken care of, with the exception of Deer Woods, Memorial, and the Water Tower, and Oak Pond, but those are because they have major debris, tree falling, and water. So he's done an amazing job. So I just want to point that out to the board. Benchmark is still working through their park slowly, and methodically. We'll stay on them to get things done completely. We just shared the CCDD announcement this afternoon about their debris cleanup for people who put their debris on the side of the road. We'll keep communicating on our behalf to the residents and help CDD in communicating as well, since we have a few more. We do have some damage, well, quite a bit of damage to townhome roofs.
Yes.
That we are having roofers out to inspect and look at and give us an idea of what we're looking at, and we'll come back to you with a plan to move forward. But there is quite a lot of 50 plus.
50 plus 50.
50.
But we have nothing to do with the townhomes in Island Village, correct?
No.
A comment on that, knowing that our next formal meeting is at the end of this month, 3.5 weeks from now, if I got it right, or 3, whatever. If there's something that needs repair more quickly, can we find a way to, whether it's meet for 10 minutes in a publicly noticed meeting or do email approval, so that someone doesn't have to wait until.
Yeah, if it meets
I
the
mean, I'm thinking of a roof leak.
if it meets the qualifications of an emergency approval, then I can get if I have unanimous approval by the board via
Okay.
email, you can ratify that
Okay,
in your
just-
next meeting publicly. Otherwise, we'll get you together as soon as possible.
Yeah, we need to expedite that so that leaks aren't affecting people and property.
Is that it for you?
As far as hurricanes, we went out Friday and took a lot of pictures of every single park and passive park, every single facility. The team did an amazing job during the hurricane. I can't say it enough. Maintenance, Parks and Rec, everyone pulled together. We were out there emptying trash, running around like craziness, the day before and after. I mean, during the hurricane, we were all in communication. We had people staying here in Celebration that, communicated with us during the storm, immediately after the storm, and reported pictures back to us. So team did an amazing job, hands down, amazing job. Overall, the parks could have been in a lot worse shape if we were not proactive in completing all the work that was done in the parks. We would have had a lot more damage. So we're very lucky that we did what we did in the parks when we did.
You also have an updated management project completion list. It's too long to go through right now, but we will put it online in the board, on the board page in your little document section, so the community can see it as well, since it was not in the packet.
Okay. Hopefully all parks will be done middle November, I would say. Hurricane put us back a little bit with sod farms, mulch deliveries, things like that, but everything that was approved will be done by middle of November.
And that's a big deal. For folks who don't know, we have 50 passive parks?
59 parks in total.
59 parks in total. Yeah, so that is a big deal to get done in less than a year. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So just a thank you to the team for all of their work. And I know that each of us probably has a story of what we've seen. When I was walking around North Village, in one of the passive parks, there was probably a 12-year-old. I don't know who he was, but he was blowing the sidewalk. And I know we all have some of the stories like that. And that was just so good. I thanked him and he said, thank you. And then I thanked him again and he said, thank you. And he just kept blowing. It was so cute. So whoever he was, applause to him. And I know we have lots of that in our community.
Yes,
So
a
that
ton
was,
of community
so
involvement.
it was
Thank
just,
you.
I mean, it was, we were spared a lot, but,
That's what we're all about, community.
yeah, you'll read that in one of the articles
Yeah.
coming up.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
All right, so
That's it.
anything else? No, good. Okay. This one is going to, oh, wait, no, we're on committee liaison reports.
What's that? I mean, what,
I heard somebody singing. Um,
someone's singing about.
Yeah.
No.
Committee liaison reports. Anybody have anything to say? Lauren I'm the liaison with the Covenants Committee. Lauren kind of stole my thunder, so I have nothing to say.
I'm the liaison for special events. Liz took care of that. I'm the liaison for the
For
condo
service
council. We're going to discuss that.
Service area liaison.
Oh, service area liaison. We met with all the services. How could I forget that? We met with all the committees.
Yeah, Celia is an overachiever.
No, we met with the committee. We had seriously some very upset committee members. And we just sat down and talked to them and discussed their budget, discussed the biggest issue, landscaping, and everybody's happy now. Just as simple as that. So thank you and thank Lauren and Rose. Where's Rose?
Right
Thank you,
there.
Rose. That's it.
Bill, anything?
Bill, treasurer?
No, we had the ARC meeting and it was typical and nothing out of the ordinary. And went through the whole list. Meetings sometimes run long because the list is long and there's a great deal of discussion on a lot of these items. But nothing to report on that. And the treasurer's meeting not the treasurer's meeting, the finance meeting last night went well and had some interesting discussions into the details of accounting. And I was glazing over a little bit, but
Aren't you glad you retired?
yeah. So anyway, the finance committee got some things in the future, some other reports and some other analysis, and also they as a group agreed on the budget that is now going to be distributed to the community. But there was a lot of, I think, good discussion on it, this meeting and the meeting before. And I'm still not exactly sure what the treasurer's role is, but we'll figure it out.
Technology committee meets tomorrow, so I'll tell you what they're going to decide. No, but they're meeting tomorrow afternoon. But in conversations with them, I think that's going to warrant them briefing the board in a workshop setting and talking through several issues. They've probably got 15 or 20 things at various levels of development. So I'll suggest that be a workshop October, November, December sometime. So they're doing well.
Are you the dog park person too?
Yeah, I don't have any further update.
Okay. Mr. Jim?
The meeting was canceled because of the hurricane. We will be meeting, the liaisons will be meeting tomorrow with the executive directors at one and any other staff to continue to try to work with various things. I do want to add something on the technology. So on our consent agenda number 5, the bandwidth increase for all locations. Just in general, better to have more bandwidth. But this particular one, that's the amount, the speed at which you can get data. Yeah. Jose has put it in a lot of time in research and meetings. And so this is to have, just a better network in general, but more importantly, it's part of a, I'll let you say it, because.
Turn it up.
Yeah.
So a lot of this discussion that came from Jim was really a collaboration with the tech committee, Tom, Anil, and the rest of the team. We started researching what's called bandwidth consumption. Okay, and basically what that allows us to do is measure the amount of usage per location and see if we're running slower than usual or if we're running at an optimal speed. Then there's also the issue that we have different vendors, and what I was trying to do is consolidate all of the vendors to one and get the best bandwidth per location for the purpose of really looking at the bigger picture, which is something called community Wi-Fi. In your areas, you have a lot of dead zones where your cell phones do not work. And one of the members actually brought that up and said, this is a really good opportunity to address you know, that if somebody's having an issue, they can pick up their cell phone, connect to the Wi-Fi and make a call. You know, so it's not just for using, you can connect, but it's really for that measure as well. There's issues with getting a cell phone antenna, for example. You have to go through getting a inspection done, getting approval from the vendor and things of that nature. This is an easier, quicker alternative. And not only that, it's going back to cost savings. So right now we have one service provider that we pay more for less bandwidth, where we consolidate this now. We just pay one flat fee and we're getting more than enough.
On the community Wi-Fi, that's not necessarily going to be done quickly, but the first phase toward it, the first step toward it is having resident Wi-Fi available at all of the major CROA locations. Do you have that list?
So at the moment, we have Lakeside being tested. I actually tested it here today and was able to connect.
When you say tested it here today, you mean here?
Yeah, so
You
right
tested
now,
it to
grab my
connect it.
phone and connect to Lakeside Wi-Fi.
Just to be clear.
And we was able to do it using only a small portion of the bandwidth, which is really the key. Controlling the bandwidth, controlling what a person has access to. We want to make sure that it's safe, that people don't go to sites that could be harmful, things of that nature. The next stop is going to be CCFC, only because we want to prepare for the event, make sure that the community has access to Wi-Fi there. And we're tackling after that North Village, East Village.
Artisan?
Artisan, we'll work with Tom Hall on Artisan, but he already has Wi-Fi.
Spring Park Heritage, right?
Yes, Spring Park, Spring Lake, Heritage Hall, North Village, East Village, Lakeside, and here. So
Van Island Village.
Island Village wasn't on the original scope, but
We don't have any
We don't own it,
facilities.
we don't own anything. yet.
Right, I'm just,
But we would extend that.
once it's there,
Once
then
we own it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Want to be on it.
Talking about technology, would you recommend maybe a workshop between now and the end of the year?
Yes.
To discuss all the projects they have, or?
Help them prioritize.
Yes.
Think
Yes,
so? Okay. You
Yes.
guys want to work on
So,
scheduling that at some point?
so Tom and I already started working on the project management list.
Yeah.
So we're already itemizing the stuff, and
Okay.
we have to meet tomorrow to discuss it and kind of.
Okay,
that we talked about.
all right. Just let us know
Yeah.
where and when you want us to be.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Jose.
Thanks, Jose.
Thanks, Lily.
Thanks.
Anything else? Mr. Chair? Okay. Now we are down to David.
So the discussion item here, which might include some action items, is board priorities moving forward. This was something that was raised when we had the add-on meeting at the end of August. We had a couple-part agenda. And we had a 2-hour meeting, and we ended without our able to go to that. I don't know if we have those listings, or it was part of the agenda from August 30th. So they were listed, but I'll read them and see where that takes us, some of which we've already dealt with. So the first item, there are 7 items on this priorities list. So it's really the board setting priorities and working with management so that we're all on the same page and we're not overloading the board or management, and more particularly management. Item number 1 was management of day-to-day responsibilities. Let me just highlight these very quickly and then go through them. Second was budget for 23 to 25, including service areas. Third was covenants inspections. Fourth was the recreation RFP process. These are not in order. These are not in priority order. Fourth was the recreation RFP process. Item 5 was the Lot D project, which is pickleball and parking expansion. Number 6 was communication advisory group. And then number 7 was Celebration Hall advisory group. And the reports from those two. Those were 6 and 7. So there may be other priorities, but those were what we had on the agenda to talk about. So now we're having that conversation. So just to start that conversation, what I would offer is that number 1 should be management of day-to-day responsibilities. And we've heard a lot of that tonight, whether it's the phone system, or we've heard Jose talk about some technology enhancements or some of the other activities with the different groups. But management of day-to-day responsibilities, to me, should be front and center. We're approaching 1 year in transition at the beginning of November. There's been some hiccups. I know that management uncovered multiple things that none of us knew about that have had to be rectified for our community for smooth operations. And so that is the priority, get things running smoothly, efficiently, and hopefully no more surprises. I think we're out of surprises except hurricane surprises. But so I would just offer that as front and center. Second, budget is a big priority. Again, this was written 6 weeks ago. So the budget for 23-25, including service areas, we've approved a notice to residents. We spent a lot of time on both of those sets of budgets and increasingly with the service area committees. So it's basically done. Brian has shared about the insurance requirements. I know that we upped it during our budget workshop, and based on Brian's comments, we may need to relook at that again. But there was also some, if you will, discovery, it may not be the right word, but some discussion and recommendations during the budget workshops, I think from the Finance Committee, where we step back and look at some overall policies. So to me, that's a priority that we take some time to build those, if you will, policy statements, whether it's investments or long-term planning in terms of funding. I think I also got into when we were talking about the capital improvement fund, and at some point we may not need to contribute at the same level we're contributing now, particularly as we run out of space. So those are the thoughts on the budget. The third was the covenants inspections. We've done a lot with that tonight. Some of that is being dealt with, I think, and as we move forward and get back to inspections and efficiencies there and localizing the communications on that. With the recreation RFP process, I know that I don't know if that's another board action item or if it's a discussion item, if it's a workshop. I don't know what that would be, but I think we need some further discussion on what the recreation RFP process would be. And I don't know if we need any discussion now.
It's already
It's underway.
It's further, yeah, it's further down too.
Okay, it's further down. Okay. Lot D project, which is pickleball and parking. I know that things were out for getting designs, and hopefully that can be on a board agenda. Or maybe you can tell us where that is.
So we have the 60 to 90% drawings. We've gotten comments from the SME group. Those have been sent back to KPMF. They're going through some initial permitting processes. I just followed up with KPMF today, trying to set a meeting, a face-to-face meeting with the SMEs, a pickleball court expert, and KPMF. We can finalize the drawings and go out to bid.
We're making progress.
So hopefully we can, maybe at the end of this month, we'll have something, or if not the following month, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the hurricane impacted KPMF's staff
Right.
and things, so I'm just waiting to hear back from them.
Okay.
I'll keep contacting them on a regular basis until I hear.
How are we with the approvals?
PCC's already approved the initial drawings. They have the 60 to 90% ones now, and they haven't given me any negative feedback.
Any others? I mean, is it Reedy Creek need to sign off on something, or?
KPMF's handling all of those,
Okay.
yeah.
But I mean, there's no identified delays because of.
Not that I've been made aware of, but.
Education Advisory Group, I know that there's an evaluation group that has met, and one of the recommendations was looking at staffing, and I know that's into the proposed budget for communications specialist. Pardon why my label, it may be called something different, probably is called something different. So that is moving forward. And then the last is the Celebration Hall Advisory Group report, which includes the 851 building, theater, and Lakeside projects. So what I will put forward, which I think would be a board action, is with all this going on, and if the board agrees that item 1, which is doing day-to-day management, day-to-day responsibilities, that's a top priority, I would propose that the activities with the theater and Lakeside projects, which was a great and very thorough report, that those go on hiatus so that we can focus on the day-to-day responsibilities and these other priorities. I would also suggest that with the 851 building, particularly with the hurricane, that as we get further structural things, that we start some beginning plannings of what this building might look like, whether there's an expansion to it, whether there's modifications with what is where, that we start some of those discussions, because to move that forward is a big job, and it's probably going to take a couple of years. So I would propose that discussions about Lakeside and discussions about the theater go on hiatus. That doesn't mean that they're dead, but they would be asleep for the near future. Whether that's 6 months, whether that's a year, and then we dust them off as things get clearer for us as a community, as we weather the financial storm that is upon us. I'm not talking about hurricane, but just what's happening nationally and internationally. Let's see how that all plays out and not venture out too far in a financial end. So those are my suggestions, and it's just, how do we want to prioritize, or do we just say to management, keep doing everything? And I propose that we not say, please do everything.
Okay, so with that proposal on number 7, with the theater and the 851 building and Lakeside, putting it on hiatus.
Not 851 on hiatus.
851, Lakeside and the theater. That theater is ours. I think we should just, that's not ours to worry about 5 years from now or 3 years from now. I think we should just take it off our radar and not waste any more of management's time on that, or any more of our residents' money in regard to this theater, and focus on Lakeside, which is ours, and mostly this building.
I would disagree.
Well, then, you know, what I would really love is for Lauren to give us a report, like Brian asked for the 4th of July, in detail, a report on every hour that management has spent with the inception of this whole Celebration Hall project initiative. That means since the inception, with the logo, with the drawings from Danny Bumpus, every bit of money of the residents that we have spent, especially your time, all the meetings we've had, the advisory meetings, the group meetings, town hall meetings, this has been costing money. This was handed to you on your lap, the beginning of a transition from CCMC to you guys. In the very beginning, it's taken up so much time where you could have been focusing on other issues. So I would like a spreadsheet on how many hours you have spent on this theater project.
I do not see the value in that.
I don't even know how you would break that out.
Well,
But you can make the same analysis for all the things that they do. I mean, how much time do they spend on recreation committee?
that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is this theater may not be here in a year from now. It may be rented. We should just take it off our radar and not spend another dime of the residents' money on this project. They've wasted so much time.
Well, you know, they haven't done the analysis yet, so how do you know how much time they wasted?
It don't make a difference.
Well, then why do you want the analysis if it
I
doesn't
want
make
a
a difference?
spreadsheet to know how much time management has spent on this project.
I have a question about money spent. LRK started analysis. Did they in fact start the project and do work?
They've made an initial, LRK themselves did an initial walk. Their engineers that were doing the other structural and electrical have not done their walk. So we will owe them something. We just do not owe them the full amount that was authorized. That's the only
$10,500.
only real dollars that you spent other than man hours.
Man hours, I want the time, every single meeting that you guys have had to attend in regard to anything that has to do with Celebration Hall, the logo, the evergreen proposal on performing arts, anything that it's taken so much of your time, and even this little project that I'm asking for is going to take a lot of time. We need to see how much time you guys have spent on this Celebration Hall. What word was it, Jim? Initiative. I mean, Lakeside is ours. This building is ours. Let's just concentrate on this moving forward and get that theater off our radar.
Okay, understand your position,
Mhm.
respect it, know that it is probably the position of a majority of our current board,
Mhm.
but it's not a unanimous decision. So I would say the deferring of it you should consider that a win and keep that. But you should know as we're going to be on next year, I will bring it up next year.
You could bring it up next year, but it doesn't need to be, there should be no more time wasted on it.
Okay.
If I could jump in, we have already said in other meetings, I have said, that it's not happening this year.
It shouldn't be happening at all,
Well,
Bill.
that's a difference of opinion. I don't know if it should or shouldn't. I do know we don't have enough information about it. And yes, Lexi may rent it next week and it's off the table. And
There
so
should
it
be no
goes.
more time spent by management on this. This was thrown in their lap in the beginning of their transition. Last January, they were 2 months into a transition and given this massive project, or whatever you want to call it, to work on. All the time, town hall meeting, architect drawings, logo, everything. It shouldn't have to be anymore. You could bring it up next year. I mean, that's fine with you, but I think it should just be taken off
Okay.
our radar.
I
But I would like management, please, if that's okay. Cedric?
Well, I think we need to get back to David's statement.
Right.
This is a priority issue.
Yeah, it's all about, yeah.
And what he's trying to say is, at this point in time, this is not a priority.
Right, it's
And
not.
we don't know when it will be able to become a priority again.
Right, but if we just take theater out of it and not bring it up and focus on Lakeside in this building, not waste any more money.
What I'm suggesting is that we prioritize.
Right.
And I'm suggesting for the theater and Lakeside that we just not throw them out, just put them on hold so we can get all of our systems right. What was thrown out in a meeting with the Celebration Company was a 3-story rebuild of the Lakeside building. That's a lot of work and a lot of planning. Let's focus on our core responsibilities, which is day-to-day management. That's my priority. It doesn't mean throw out the Lakeside idea. It doesn't mean throw out the Celebration Hall report. Those are good
Right.
reports. They also identified 20 parcels of property potential. Those are great options, but let's not focus on that. Let's focus on the here and now, and then something with this building. That's all. It's just hiatus for those two. Doesn't mean it's destroyed.
Okay, but I would still like that itemized spreadsheet, please.
I would like to,
object to that request. I don't know if that's going to make any difference, but
The residents need to see
I
how
think
much.
that's a lot of their time, which apparently we're addressing the fact that they have too much time. I mean, I have too much to do, and you're gonna give them another task just so you can have a number?
I agree with you.
I mean, that's, again, this is
I
a
agree.
priority issue. That's water under the bridge, again,
Just 100 hours of fire, it
we'll,
doesn't matter.
we'll fit.
I would say that since this is a priority issue, and I totally agree with it, I don't like it open-ended. So if we could say, okay, we're gonna table it for 3 months or 4
Yeah,
months.
3 months, 6 months,
and
whatever,
then we
whatever.
bring it back. That just doesn't disappear and go down the road.
So then maybe we'll table it to the next board in place.
I mean,
Suggesting
suggesting.
table. That's the same thing,
That's what
by
I
the
said.
way.
Yeah, that's what I said, 6 months. Yeah.
It
Well,
worked, it worked.
And we'll see, because like David mentioned, we don't know what the financial, we don't know what this building is gonna cost. We don't know what the financial climate is gonna be, 6 months down the road. It doesn't make sense for us to, another somebody with
This
me.
just in.
Yeah, that's just it, yeah. I mean, I think there's too many unknowns and that we need to focus on certain things and not be part of the focus.
It's just a matter of
At this
priority.
point.
That's all
And
it is.
you are correct, Jim, that will take up a lot of management time, because there were a lot of hours.
You made your point,
put.
Celia,
Okay,
I got it.
Got
I
it.
know.
Thank you.
You're clear on your position. Thank you for being so,
So I withdraw my request.
Okay. We have some comments online. I see Charles, does that happen to be Charles Richards?
That is Charles Richards. Thank you. Charles Richards, 1020 Banks Rose Street. Good conversation. What I would say, I'm hearing a lot of management company time, but board time, right? You're a board of 5 now. So liaison assignments stretched. There's obviously more work now going around. And I just think, David, I think you're spot on, right? I think the core competencies, is really, you got to get down to that. The day-to-day operations of the association with Grand Manors, I think that is the key at this point. Not to get too tied down to the theater, but frankly, I echo what Celia said, and we really feel like this conversation has been had ad nauseum. I'm not going to make declarations of majority or most of the community. I'm not going to qualify those statements, but I think at this point in time, we really shouldn't be having those discussions at all around the theater. There was some pretty strong feedback in previous forums when the advisory group put their initial draft together. There was really strong feedback and opposition to it. Again, I'm not going to qualify anything with majority or most residents don't want it. It just doesn't seem to be a good use of the time. And obviously, we've put a lot of time into this, a lot of resources, a lot of sunk costs. But the time you spend working on this theater, the time you spend looking at these other projects, it's time taken away, right? Opportunity cost from the core competencies, from the other things that we need that really add value. And so I would just say, keep focusing on that. And but remember, you're a board of 5 now. So just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Next, we have Alan. Alan, please identify yourself and speak. Or not.
He needs to unmute himself. There's no last name, it just says Alan, yes. He's unmuted now.
Alan, can you hear us? Alan. Okay. Maybe I'm on this page. All righty.
You got a hand right here.
Oh, you got a hand?
Microphone.
Yes, please.
I'm assuming when you say theater, you mean the movie theater.
Right.
Because be careful with the language, because it's sounding as though you're saying no performance space ever.
Oh,
I didn't say that. I just said the
You're
theater.
using the word theater,
I,
as a generic place, as opposed to the movie theater.
well, Doug,
The celebration theater, that's the specific place.
Okay. Okay.
well, no.
It's a comment on that. In terms of that particular building on that corner, it's a beautiful building. It's in great shape. I would love to see it occupied. The question is, to Charles's point, is our priorities right now. I would love to see it vibrant. I would love to see that help the downtown. But is it appropriate for us at this point in time? And at what cost to us as staff and board in terms of our time and effort? And at what cost to our residents? Those are a lot of unknowns. I mean, the latter part, financial costs, we don't know. But I think time and effort, it's just, and then with the, Charles pointed out the controversies that were raised, but different points of view, that can be very divisive in our community. We don't need divisiveness. We don't need divisiveness now. We need to continue to pull together. So it's just a matter of priorities. It's not, to me, it's not taking it off the table. 6 months, I think, is very reasonable, to Bill's point.
My point was the delineation between the concept of a theater or a movie theater.
Gotcha.
Those are two different things.
And then the larger concept that brought this whole thing together was community center. And then from the survey study from 3 years ago, and performing arts were high priorities. So still keep our eyes on those.
Theater space.
Yes, so thank you.
Jim, you had something else to say?
I'm sorry.
I did.
Would you like to say it now?
I'm trying to remember what I was going to say. So I do. I do need to. Thank you for the tip. No, I understand that this is nothing more is going to happen to this. I think this, personally, I think it's a missed opportunity that we didn't even get to the place where we knew what the numbers were when we just listened to people speculating on how much things would cost and that they would be too much. I also personally know how divisive Lexington is for this community. I personally think we should try. I'm not sure how to do that. In my thinking, this was one way that we could potentially do that. Trust but verify. And that's it. Thank you.
What's the next thing?
So,
What's
well, let me ask this. So should we vote to table the theater and Lakeside projects until the next board comes in? Still owe some money to LRK, but not the full amount. That's assuming they'll let us out of the contract, which I'm guessing they will. We would also have to contact Lexington and let them know that, you know, if they have somebody else that's interested.
I think they're already there. Right?
They're already.
The question is,
Okay,
We
all
don't
right.
have any agreement with them. They are free.
They're actively looking to, you know, whatever.
They say they are, and maybe they are. If it's still available, then it becomes a discussion, but if it goes away, it goes.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure that they would,
It's coming
that
from the
they,
community.
yeah.
Alan typed in his comment
Oh,
because we couldn't hear him. It says, how could this board consider paying rent to Lexington from our homeowner dues? Just look at the back of Imperium. The balconies have so much wood rot that they're all but falling down. Have them make a good faith effort for a year and then reconsider.
I thought that I agree with the concept, but I thought that they were covered by the consent decree or, the settlement, that they were supposed to do something.
They're working.
Is there a time frame as to?
There are timeframes.
They're doing it, but those people had to go to court to get them to do anything. And that's, I think, what he's trying to say.
yeah,
So if they didn't go to court and they didn't win the settlement, town center would still be crumbling and nothing would be getting done.
David, do you want to make a formal
Yeah,
motion?
let me make two broad motions. One is that in terms of priorities, that management prioritize the day-to-day responsibilities. So that's one. I mean, we've talked about some of these others. I think those can be embedded in that, but it's really day-to-day priorities. And of course, covenants is a subset of that, and budget is a subset of that, and communications is a subset. And then the other is I would propose, so the second motion, each of which needs to stand on its own, I think, is that with respect to that building downtown, the Celebration Theater building, and then the Lakeside expansion, that those go on hiatus until the new board is elected, And I think we can leave 851, just, I don't know that that needs a proposal, because I think there'll be some movement. Maybe that's a separate proposal at some point that we say, hey, we have some breathing room. It's January now. Maybe we should start looking at 851. But I'll just leave 851 off the table for now. Just not, in other words, take two items off the table, but prioritize day to day.
They are effectively off the table. Any movement that was going to go forward has been canceled. Right? So there's really.
Right.
It's kind of like making about what's already happened in the transition to 5 people.
But I also think that with 851, there'll be some,
I think we need to continue the maintenance. But if we're talking about, as Charles did, that we want to focus on day to day, if we're talking about we just have 5 people.
That's fair.
Do we not?
That's fair.
Do we not just want to put everything aside? So put 851 build up.
I'll amend my.
All of them except for the maintenance.
Yeah.
And so my question then is, do we go forward, given this uncertainty and given 5 board members with the Lot D project? Or do we put it on hold?
No.
I
think that's too far down.
That's too far down the line. There's not much labor, there's not much work on any of our shoulders now, because it would be.
Well, let's work on their shoulders.
Not much.
I assume you're going to get bids and.
No.
No, bids come from the
It's
company.
sitting on my desk. It's not impacting the rest of the staff.
Okay. Too busy.
No, I think that one's
We don't care about you.
that one's 90% down the road.
I'm just bringing it up. If we're really, really going to focus on day to day, that's not day to day.
To me, that is part of day to day. Once we get bids, we can decide whether they're appropriate, whether the price is appropriate.
Okay.
Or did you change
So I
the
have,
motion?
so my second motion would be put 851, the theater building and Lakeside project on hiatus for 6 months. For the maintenance stuff. So I have 2 separate motions, each of which I think should be voted on independently, and each of which would need a second.
Okay. So, again, the first motion is to,
Prioritize day to day.
okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? I'm assuming there's no more discussion.
Aye.
Okay.
I guess so. I
I
think
guess
that's what
so.
they're doing now, but okay.
But to formally prioritize.
That's fine. Yeah, it's fine if we want to support that. Yeah.
And then the second motion would be?
Put the revamping of 851 theater building and Lakeside project on a hold till the new board in early March.
So that's putting Celebration Hall on hold.
No.
No.
Celebration Hall, 851.
Was the theater.
851 build out
And the Lakeside,
Lakeside
a
project.
3-story Lakeside. It was in the Celebration Hall report.
Right, that's what I
The
meant.
Celebration Hall concept
Right,
included all 3 buildings.
Right,
So that all gets on hiatus.
right. That's what I said.
Okay.
Great thinking, great initiatives, not the right time for now.
Okay. Okay, so that's Dave's motion. I will second that. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, at this point, I'm
But-
going to.
but-
Oh,
So,
I'm sorry, any nays?
okay.
No, everybody good? Okay. At this time, I would point out that it is a little bit after 8 o'clock. There's only a few more things on the agenda. Do we want to save those for next month, or do we want to go through, or is there anything that we really should discuss now?
That's what I would ask.
I would really like to discuss the condo council resolution so that I can move forward with the condo council.
Have we seen a resolution?
We have a
It's
resolution,
their existing one from 2021. You don't have a new one.
which really needs a lot of discussion, and we don't have time for that. Which we really should go by is the one from 2018, when the initial condo council was formed.
I would actually recommend you have committee resolutions in their entirety into a workshop, because you did not do resolutions for 2022.
Right.
So prepping those in concept for 2023 would probably be a good workshop, and you can prioritize the condo council in that
Because
workshop.
the reason for the condo council and this resolution are two different things.
Glad you brought that up, because one of the things that I've been noodling around, Brian, is I was going to recommend that each of the liaisons for each committee get the current copy of solutions for those committees in the next, several weeks or, months or whatever, actually see if that resolution matches what the committee is doing and make any changes. So come March, after the election and all this goes through, then we will have that piece of it done, and we won't be scrambling around. So there's plenty of time to observe, get ideas, bounce it off the committee, and so that's a great idea.
Well, when can we make the workshop in regard to the condo council?
I'll send out an email in the morning for dates for you guys.
Okay. And that's just for the condo council, that doesn't affect us. Okay. Do we need to talk about Jeter Bend today?
I think, so they've submitted their proposal for the holiday, for the Christmas thing. There have been concerns raised in emails and phone calls to town hall about the Halloween piece as well. I think the question is, do we want to request that they implement similar security plans and for the Halloween one as well?
So does CCDD have anything to do with the sheriff, Jack, with that?
We can contract the sheriff to provide extra patrols, but not actually support the event.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Mr. Cancel?
We researched this last year exhaustively. Jack was part of it, I was part of it, other board members were part of it. We have no enforcement capability. We didn't make money an object, and we couldn't hire deputies because they weren't available and they weren't free and you couldn't get them. I mean, some Jeter Band, you get the letters, but we have no control and we have no ability. So you're tackling an impossible project.
Exactly. Okay, so there's a few more things. Shall we stop now and continue? Laura, what do you
Is there
think?
anything,
Yeah, I don't think there is anything else pressing. You're all up to date on the latest
I
development.
move to table the rest of the items until the next meeting.
I second that.
You listening?
She's asking about,
Recreation committee, Little League field, the high school. pool
is that
practice.
present?
No, I'll just you in an email
Okay.
about what's happening.
So I made the motion. to be-
I second it.
I don't know if you heard it.
To do, oh, yeah, to table?
To
Table everything else until the next.
Okay, great. Does anybody?
Or do we need to pass, do we all agree?
Oh, I'm
on that?
No, we need to
I'm sorry.
vote on it.
Thank you.
So we're tabling D, E, G, and H.
No, H, you've resolved.
H is gonna get kicked to a workshop.
Yep. And F has been resolved. Goes on the agenda for October 26th. Anybody, board members, have any comments?
I do.
Okay,
I do.
okay.
Go first.
I think we did a really good job tonight with just the flag. Well, I don't want it worded wrong. I think we did a good job tonight. Thank you. Lauren and her staff again. What they did last week is just beyond amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, couple of things.
Okay.
One is just reading an email that Lauren just wrote. I guess you were multitasking. Can I read that publicly? Yeah. Since we've had a discussion, we had an action item an hour ago about the Oak Pond tree. Brian thought it could be done early next week. Lauren's email says, Brian from Exquisite just notified me that the Oak Pond trees will be addressed on Thursday this week. So quick action. Thank you to Brian. Thank you to Exquisite. Thank you for whomever he's got contracted. I also wanted to thank Cindy for leading an efficient meeting, trying to monitor the time. Thank you for accepting nudges and reminders
Thank
on
you.
things.
Thank you. I'll get it.
You'll get it. You'll
I
get
more
it.
than
You'll
appreciate
get it.
it.
Several of us, three of us in this room have already been there, as I'm counting. But thank you to all for pulling together as a board with this transition, and then with the hurricane that none of us wanted. Ian can just go whatever.
It's gone. Bill, anything?
Nope.
I have just one thing, and then I'll, okay. To apologize. I got a call from a resident of the Jewish faith yesterday. Today, tomorrow.
No, today.
Today, at 6:30 at sundown begins Yom Kippur, which is the high holiday for those of the Jewish faith. Usually, we are, always, we are very sensitive to that. When they put out the schedule for the year, they look for, not only Jewish holidays, but, Christian holidays and Ramadan and all that kind of stuff. But as you all know, this meeting was supposed to be last week.
Is there an opening?
And we tried to schedule it the first time, first opportunity we could, and this is what happened. And, we apologize to you folks who might have been affected or offended, and we will do our best to have that not happen again.
And
And
you
we're
have to
sorry.
celebrate it.
So, okay, and we have,
If I may, just as a side to that, thank you for raising that. I also talked with that resident today. And just as an aside on that, as we build a master calendar, I think it'll be helpful to put this into, if you will, the template for our own planning. So as groups come forward that choose to use one of our facilities, that we inform them if they don't already know, hey, that date is certain thing. And then that group, if it's an independent group that's renting a room or that's not a CROA group, we don't have authority over them, but we have authority over our space, and we can say, we're just informing you, you might consider not scheduling it to conflict with whatever. Or as we do that master calendar, if there's one event and another event, hey, you're going right up against Winter Wonderland, or you're going right up against such and such that's already here, lifelong classes, whatever. So you might consider not offering it then. So it helps move us towards that master calendar that includes it.
and their attendance may not be as great as they would expect, depending what kind of event.
Exactly.
And we have one more comment from the audience.
Well, first, the important thing, Aaron Judge just hit the 60 seconds. Aaron Judge, New York Yankees.
Oh, come on.
Okay, Roger Maris.
Big deal.
Anyway,
Yes.
that's the important thing. Now, this one, I'm assuming it's the Board of Elections that come into Heritage Hall to do the voting. Would that be correct? Are they charged a facilities fee for that?
Don't think so.
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, I
I'll
don't
double
think
check
so.
with you.
Can we? And I'm
But that's a good
wondering
point.
if you have registration to vote, if you're charging a facilities fee, if there's no facility being used, for registration, could that be considered a voter tax?
That's a good point. Okay. And if there's no other comments,
And, thank you all for doing this.
Oh,
I know it's been a
thank you.
tough few weeks. You guys are,
I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
David, and second? Second. Celia. All right, we are done. And we- Oh, geez. Thank you.
We're going to do the old dollar chart.
Yeah. Oh, God.
We're going to do the
We've had a
dollar.
habit of not voting, but I thought maybe.
Okay.
Did we
All in
vote? Did we
favor?
vote?
No, we
Oh,
haven't.
we haven't yet.
All in favor?
Ah.
Get you the savings, Dave.
Good job.
See you next time.